Gravity is all that I know. She's over me. She's over me. She comes with her hypnotic dance. She holds me here with only a glance. She's over me. She's over me. It's the spaghetti sound that signals the beginning of the show. Welcome, everybody, to the Paranormal Portal. I'm your host, Brent Thomas, and these are our Night Terrors. These are shorter formats Paranormal Portal shows. Wednesday, Friday, and Saturday, we go 2 full hours, but on Sunday and Thursday, we go 1 hour. So this is a 1 hour show. I hope you're all ready to spend an hour with me. I will do my best to keep you absolutely entertained as much as I can. Tonight we're going to be talking about UFO encounters. I found a couple of really cool articles that I think will be a lot of fun to dig into, and a couple of little small references to several different UFO events that have been pretty widely known. But we got a lot to get through. And then, of course, at the end of the show tonight, we got the trail cam terrors. Got a good one for you. I think this one's pretty compelling. I can't say for sure what the hell is on the screen. Like some of them you can kind of tell, but this one's really got me scratching my head. But we'll talk about that at the tail end of the show, so stick around for that because that'll be coming up at the end. So the phone lines are always open here on the Paranormal Portal, and if you want to call in and be a part of the discussion, you sure can be. If you've got a UFO encounter of your own, or you've seen some strange lights in the sky, or strange lights anywhere, I guess. I'd love to hear about it. And the number for the show is 720-923-0500. So call in and share what you got, because the best content is firsthand. And I've already shared all my stuff, I think, for the most part. I mean, I've probably forgotten a ton of things that have happened to me. But I've shared my main UFO story, which is when I saw the saucer, and that was absolutely earth-shattering, just earth-shattering. It was incredible. So anyway, if you've got a story of your own, definitely call in. As well as if you have several stories of your own and you would want to be a guest on the podcast, reach out to me at paranormalportalradio@gmail.com. Also, a quick note to those of you who have reached out to me, please reach out to me again, because when I was sick and under the weather for several weeks there, I just totally lost everything. I mean, it's all in the inbox somewhere, but it's all just such a mess. And so if I've already talked to you or touched base with you and you still would like to be a guest, I'd love to have you as a guest on the podcast. So just reach out to me again. If you wouldn't mind, I'd appreciate it. I don't think I've missed too many of them, but I know there's a couple that have kind of been in limbo due to scheduling issues, but hopefully we'll get those all ironed out and get those guests on as well. So let's see. I think that's all the laundry up front. You can check out. I'm wearing last year's Medellin Falls shirt that was given to me by Mr. Stephen Majors, who is kind of the spearhead tip of the whole Medellin Falls conference that'll be happening in Medellin Falls, Washington State. The Bigfoot Festival that's happening over there on June 19th and 20th, I think, is the right dates. I think that's the right dates. But at any rate, we've talked about it many, many times on the show. And if you're not going, try to go. If you're at all interested in the Bigfoot field, there's going to be so much going on in this community. And Don and I will be there as well. And it'd be great to meet you guys if you can make the journey. And we'll be around up there throughout the whole thing. So if you get a chance, make that journey because, again, Bob Gimlin is the keynote speaker. Adam Davies is emceeing the whole thing. Ken Gerhard, cryptozoologist and TV personality and author, will be up there as well. There's a few other... Amy Boo will be there, Amy Boo. She is a Bigfoot researcher, a wonderful person. She's been a guest on the show and just had a blast talking with her. And she's one of the most genuine people you're ever going to meet. So if you get a chance, you should come. As well as there's another name, Shane Corson. That's a name that I was forgetting. He's going to be there as well, and he's a Bigfoot researcher in the Washington State area, I believe. So there's lots going on. The whole community set up. There's a free film festival at the movie theater. There's a 5K race for those of you that might be 5Kers or marathoners, whatever. You might be able to win the 5K race, which is cool. So lots going on in that community again in June 19th and 20th. I hope you guys will make it. That should be a blast. Ruger Ridge says, soon as I get better cell service. Yeah, there you go. Ruger is one of them. Yeah, I can't wait to talk to you, brother. Definitely let me know. Or if you're going to be somewhere that has good cell service and you can put an hour aside, let me know. Reach out to me via email and let me know. So anyway, let's get on with the show. Without further ado, I hope you all are ready because it's time for bed. Boom. With the sound of the boom. We are active and at it. The show is now officially underway. So let's dive into the UFO stuff again. According to what I understand, recent surveys of people, I don't know which people, but you know how surveys are, right? So people spout surveys as these definitive kind of snapshots of the public sentiment. But apparently in several surveys that were done regarding do people believe there's other intelligent life in the universe, I guess over 60% of respondents said yeah. And so I guess in a sense, if they believe intelligent life is out there, then they probably at least are maybe open to the idea that intelligent life is far, far advanced to our own, that they've managed to open up whole new possibilities as to, their capabilities and what they can do. I know a lot of times I used to have discussions with people and about the idea of whether or not extraterrestrials could be visiting here. And this one woman that I used to talk to quite a bit, she was like, no, it's not possible. And I even talked to my professor. She had been in college, and she said that I asked him when I was doing the interview. She interviewed him. She used to work on the college newspaper or something like that. And he said that in order for intelligent life to have the ability to travel from the far distance of the cosmos to Earth would require energy that would be unbelievable and would be like equivalent to a sun. And I thought, well, that's with what we know. We can't measure these other intelligences with our ruler, with our yardstick. You can't do that because we only know things as we've unwrapped them. We only have the understanding of the natural and fundamental building blocks of the universe from what we've unpacked, what we've opened. And we can't measure everyone else using that same yardstick. It's kind of the idea of like, there's been people who have raised the question of why are we looking for intelligent life on other planets, by looking for radio signals. Well, it's because that's what we did. We made radio waves first, and then we started expanding from there. But what if these other intelligences, expanded in a way that was completely foreign to what we might understand? And then not only that, they are, as Michio Kaku says, they might be tens, hundreds, thousands, or even millions of years advanced to us. And I know that's kind of hard to believe, but if you think, if you were to go back in a time machine to 1950 right now, taking your cell phone and things of just everyday use here, and brought them back to 1950, they would think you were from space. Because, the idea of like, a cell phone was like the communicators on Star Trek, and touch your chest and talk, and the flip out, communicators or whatever, all of that stuff. And even like the Next Generation having the touch screens, Star Trek, Star Trek, The Next Generation, they kind of unveiled this whole idea of touch screen panels where they had these, different screens that would switch and they could do stuff for their controls. It wasn't just static knobs and dials. And that was just far-fetched fantasy stuff, but that's like your iPad now. That's like your cell phone now. And stuff that we now take for granted was absolutely fantastical and only in the realm of science fiction back in the day. So this is just in our short period of time of 50, 70 years. That's how far we've come, and to think about what does a million years of advancement look like. And I would think it would look like magic to us. It would just look like miraculous, magical things happening in front of our eyes. We just couldn't wrap our heads around it because we just don't understand. But that might be their, disposable iPhones, things like that. So, is it possible that they could get here? Yeah, I think it is. It's very possible. They might have unpacked all kinds of different ideas in the universe of how to do things that we think would take an exorbitant amounts of energy and stuff. So I think you got to keep an open mind about that stuff. But we're going to dive into some stuff here right away, dealing with, where the hell is it? There it is. I found it pretty quick this time. And this is an article that we've kind of gone through a little bit in previous shows, but this is 15 most chilling UFO sightings ever recorded. And this comes from actually Reader's Digest. I think Reader's Digest is the site, but it says Reader's Digest Asia, but it's obviously very American here, so I don't know. Let me go up to the top of the screen here and make sure. Yeah, it's Reader's Digest Asia. Okay. Well, they did a good job. Wherever it's from. Here's the article, and we are on one called the Washington Merry-Go-Round. All right, so this is the Washington Merry-Go-Round. It says, a 1952 incident where several unidentified objects appeared over secure airspace near the U.S. Pentagon was captured on film. The crafts were registered on radar, and jets were immediately sent to investigate these suspicious strange craft. However, when the American jets approached that airspace, those 7 objects disappeared from the radar. When the jets landed, the objects returned to the radar screen once more. President Harry S. Truman was notified, and Air Force Intelligence Director General Sanford held a press conference saying that there were reports made by credible observers of relatively incredible things in this group of observations that we are attempting to resolve. There was no resolution. Now, I'm not familiar with that, and I'd love to see what they captured on film. And if anybody knows, or I guess I could do some Googling myself, but I had not done that. But I'm going to have to, because I want to look into what was actually captured on film. That's incredibly interesting and pretty compelling, even way back in 1952. That's very amazing. Japan Airlines Flight 162 or 1628. I think this is the famous one that took place around Alaska. It says, in 2001, former FAA official John Callahan told a conference of high-ranking officials that in 1986, Japan Airlines Flight 1628 was on its way from Paris to Tokyo when crew members spotted several UFOs. And in a television documentary, the American Heroes Channel reports that the Japanese airline crew called in multiple UFOs surrounding the plane, including one that was 4 times their own size. They made an emergency landing in Anchorage, Alaska, where the ground crew confirmed the sightings. Now, I think they also, if this is the same one, it also had been tracked on radar, and there is printouts of that have been verified as being the actual printouts from the air traffic control tower. So they actually did see these things following the plane, and the plane did execute several maneuvers on request by the tower just to see what was going on, and these echoes from the radar did return, showing this thing traveling with the jet itself. Now, I think as I recall, this object, whatever it was, it said it was 4 times bigger. I think it was like the size of a football field was what they said. It was just huge, and it was up there floating around. So that's pretty incredible. This is another one I'm not really familiar with, but this is the Muscarello Exeter incident. It was 1965 in Exeter, New Hampshire, USA, when a hitchhiker named Norman Muscarello saw 5 strange red flashing lights in the woods. As TV station WMUR recounts, the source of the lights suddenly came towards him at frightening speed. Muscarello dove into a ditch to avoid being hit before flagging down a motorist. The police investigated the area, and they too saw the same aircraft with the same bright red lights speed out of sight. Today, the incident is celebrated with a yearly Exeter UFO festival. Yeah, there you go. This one is a knock on Rick Sorrell's door. We got a couple of great articles coming. Well, one great article for sure. I think it's going to be really good. A knock on Rick Sorrell's door. In 2008, an unfathomably large aircraft hovered above Stephenville, Texas, USA, and many people in the community saw it. And according to the Mutual UFO Network, a pilot named Stephen Allen reported that the unusual aircraft was flying at an estimated 4,800 kilometers per hour and was being chased by fighter jets. Then a man named Rick Sorrells said that he saw the same thing while hunting. Later, Sorrells says a strange man knocked on his door and said, "Son, we have the same caliber weapons you have, but we have more of them. You need to shut your mouth about what you saw." Ooh, that's not good. That's not the kind of company you want. This one's Richard French and the Drowned UFOs. Or is it USOs? In the 1950s, it was Lieutenant Colonel Richard French's job to explain away UFO phenomena for the government. There was only one problem. Lieutenant Colonel French actually saw alien ships with his own eyes, reports the Daily Mail. At a citizen hearing on disclosure in 2013, the then 83-year-old man told the truth for the first time about what he saw as a young man in the waters of St. John's, Newfoundland, Canada. 2 UFOs that had crashed and sunk in the water, and aliens trying to fix them. They succeeded and took off, and he didn't mention UFOs in his report at the time. How's that for a freaky government cover-up? Keep reading to learn about 13 mysteries. Oh, okay, that's another article. Okay, yeah, so that's pretty interesting. Those are a few, I guess, pretty well documented. I haven't heard of many of them. But I don't claim to be really well versed in the UFO lore, but I can see that there's a lot more going on than I was familiar with. So anyway, let's move on to some of the articles that, 2 of the articles that I have pulled up. We'll see where we end up with time. What time is it now? 7:21? Okay. On my time. All right. This article is from a site that I just discovered, and it was somebody posted it on Facebook somewhere, and I just saw it and went, wow, that looks really interesting. So this is coming from a site called How and Wise, and it's man from Wyoming traveled 163,000 light years from Earth with alien named Also One. Also One. Okay. While hunting a deer, a man from Wyoming met an alien who had come to Earth also to hunt deer. It's like Predator, but normal Predator, not a human predator. The alien drugged the hunter and then took him to his planet. On October 25th, 1974, 41-year-old Carl Higdon, who worked for the oil industry, went hunting for a weekend to the Medicine Bow National Forest in Carbon County, Wyoming. Higdon was an experienced hunter, but he had not yet been to such a forest, and it turned out to be a remote and uninhabited area with no signs of human presence. Higdon visited the forest by car, but the road was not very good, so he walked over a small forested hill, and when he was on the other side of the hill, he immediately came across a herd of deer, one of which was a large male with branched antlers. Higdon was about to shoot the deer when something very strange happened. He aimed, fired, but suddenly the shot was completely silent, and the rifle did not recoil. And then Higdon watched in amazement as the bullet from the rifle flew ahead in very slow motion. Ooh, that's creepy. He went into bullet time. That's what they call it in the Matrix, bullet time. At such a slow pace, the bullet flew only a few meters and then fell sharply to the ground, as if it had hit something invisible. And when the hunter looked at this and wondered, he noticed that the whole atmosphere around him became tense, as if filled with static electricity. Higdon went to the bullet to pick it up and saw that it was flattened, as if it had hit something very strong. The deer had already fled by that time, but Higdon was not there alone. He had heard a noise of branches crunching, and then he looked to the right in the shade of the trees, and he saw a human figure. I guess that's a rendition of the figure. That seems to be floating. The figure was the size of a tall man and wore a tight black jumpsuit, similar to a diving suit, and he wore a pair of seat belts and a metal belt with a yellow star decoration at his waist. Yeah, that's what it looks like. Despite being human, the creature's head was not at all human. He had no ears, his eyes were small and deep-set, his mouth was an open slit, from which 3 large teeth were visible, and 2 short antennae grew from his forehead. The hair on the creature's head was like straw and stood straight up. Yep, that's what it looks like. The creature did not seem to have a neck at all. An eerie head sat directly on its shoulders, merging with the body. The arms were very long, while one arm had something like a chisel instead of a wrist at the end, and the other had no wrist at all. The strange entity looked at Higdon for a few moments and then took a few steps towards him and asked him in English, "How are you?" That's awesome. The stunned Higdon answered, "Okay," after a couple of seconds. Yeah, what are you going to say, right? So these are a few drawings that were put up there. The creature nodded at that and then came closer. It didn't look threatening and then asked Higdon if he was hungry. Without waiting for the hunter's response, the creature pulled out a plastic bag from somewhere and sent it through the air as if using telekinesis towards the hunter. Well, he caught the package, opened it somehow, and found 4 pills inside. The creature said the pills would keep him full for the day. The hunter pulled out one and swallowed. Sounds like a bad date. You don't just take things because somebody said it's good. This is bad. This is all kinds of bad. And put the rest in his pocket. And then the creature finally introduced itself. It said his name was Also One, and then pointed to something behind it. Higdon saw a transparent cube-shaped object that looked like a large box-shaped spaceship. He said no entrance, no windows, no landing gear. The spaceship just stood on the ground. Oh, there's an article from, I don't know when it was from. 1973, okay. March 14th or 16th. Also asked Higdon if he wanted to take a ride. See, this is like Rufinol or something. And before the hunter could answer, he somehow ended up inside the spaceship, as if he was teleported there. He did not understand how he fit into that tiny space, but he was immediately seized by panic when he saw that his arms and legs were tied with some kind of ribbons. Oh no. And then he calmed down a little. He calmed down a little. A kind of force field in which 5 deer were floating, or maybe he saw a kind of force field in which 5 deer were floating. They were frozen, and he was sure that they were the same deers that he had seen in the clearing. Then he saw another creature from the Osso race in the spaceship. The creature approached the hunter and put a helmet on his head, and then the ship took off. And Higdon could see through the transparent walls how they went up, and there was his car at the bottom of the hill. Then they flew even higher and reached the Earth's orbit. Then they flew into deep space around 163,000 light years away from Earth, and they ended up on a new planet where the ship approached a huge tower. Around the tower, many colored lights were revolving, like powerful searchlights. They were so bright that Higdon could not open his eyes. What happened next, Higdon hardly remembers, and at some point he saw a group of people outside, but he did not understand why they were there and who they were, and then also told him that his race regularly flies to Earth for hunting. Then the hunter was placed in a room where he was scanned by some kind of device. Also said that the hunter was not suitable for their purposes. Thank God. That's a good thing. And they would bring him back home. They were on Earth as quickly as they flew away from it, and before releasing Higdon, also took the package with pills from him, and then wanted to take his gun, but he said that he was forbidden to do so. After that, the aliens disappeared, and Higdon found himself in the forest, completely disoriented and frightened. He wandered around until he somehow found some kind of transport, and in some time he realized that it was his car. With the help of the radio, he gave a distress signal, and then sat in the car and shivered, waiting for help. How do you give a distress signal with your radio? When the search party reached him, it turned out that his car was parked at the bottom of the deep forest canyon, 5 miles from where he left it. There were no roads nearby, and there were no tire tracks in the gorge, so this fact was already good proof of Higdon's words. Higdon did not immediately recognize his wife from the stress he had endured. It might have been from the pills, too, though. And it turned out that in the area on the eve of the abduction of the hunter, other people saw strange lights in the sky. When Higdon was found, he was so confused that he had little to say. He only kept repeating about the bullet, which flattened out when struck against something invisible. Most of his memories were obtained through regressive hypnosis. Then a medical examination of the hunter was carried out, and it turned out that the scars left from his long-term tuberculosis disappeared from his lungs, and stones from which he had suffered for a long time disappeared from the kidneys. Well, that's cool. They actually fixed him up. A flattened bullet was found in the pocket of his jacket, and research showed that it could only get such damage if it hit a very hard surface, harder than wood or stone in the forest. Later, Higdon was repeatedly called a fraud, who supposedly invented all of this to become famous, but at least the strange fact of finding his car in a place where it could not be in any way according to the laws of physics shows that this story is real. Wow. I'd never heard of this before, but God, that's really trippy. I mean, it's really, you don't ever eat something. Some strange creature says, "Here, you hungry? Have a pill." That's red flag number one. Well, actually, red flag number one is when your bullet flies out of your gun looking like a ping pong ball. That's probably number one. And then it just goes from bad decision to bad decision all the way through it. But I don't know. That's freaky. Is it possible? I don't know. We often can only wonder, what is it like? Where these beings come from? What is it like? Maybe it's exactly like that. Who knows? I mean, if you believe Benny and Barty Hill, then this is just as possible. A weird description, though. The weirdness is, to me, is this unusual description. I mean, that's like a one-off kind of description. I don't think I've ever heard of any other extraterrestrial beings that are described this way. There's the chisel, there's the nothing on that arm. Seems to be floating. It's wearing the black, looks like a wetsuit, and has the weird spiky hair and the antennae, I don't know what you say there, and there's elk in the background, not necessarily deer, but at any rate, yeah, that's pretty freaky. And they apparently come here hunting all the time. So maybe there'll be more chances for more people to bump into the Ossos. What a bunch of assos. Sorry. It's just the low-hanging fruit, folks. You can't really blame me, can you? I don't know. It's my show, so you get what you get. So it looks like a crash. I don't know what the Android's saying. Oh, a crash dummy. It looks like a crash dummy. Yeah, kind of does. You're right. I think it's pretty peculiar, but I really would never take, I don't know. Would you guys take some kind of weird pill that'll keep you full all day given to you from this newfound alien friend you just bumped into in the forest? Would you? I'm thinking I wouldn't. I'd be, no, I'm good. I would still want to go for a ride though. I would, but it's kind of creepy that it sounds like they wanted to keep him. They didn't want him to come home, but so that they kind of suckered him into the whole journey and then did all this, research on him. They healed the hell out of the guy though. His tuberculosis scars were gone and kidney stones or whatever stones were gone from his system. So, I mean, they did a lot of good for the guy, but it didn't sound like they were intending on bringing him back if he passed the test. And that's not good. You have to let me know. Let me know what you guys say. I like food too much. Android likes food too much. Yeah, I appreciate I appreciate that a lot. Yep. I'm just looking. Any other comments from the chat? Any other comments? This is your moment to shine, chat. I'm looking. You have my undivided attention. So if you think you would go for a ride with an alien, let us know. Oh, nothing. Maggie M10. That's a new name. Good to see you, Maggie M10. Good to see you. Thanks for coming in and checking us out. Herman Vera. That's a new name. I have tap on my camera. Okay. All right. But I guess we can go to the next article then. Not a lot of feedback about that, but I think we all kind of agree that's a weird story. Is it real? Maybe. Maybe. All right. Here's another one that happened apparently in 1941 after a crash. This one is again from How and Wise, and it's an article that has to do with a Baptist minister who gave last rites to 3 aliens that died in 1941 UFO crash in Missouri. And if you're from Missouri, you'd say Missouri. I don't know why though, because look, that is definitely a letter I. But anyway, I don't know. All right, so April 1941, a local sheriff visited Reverend William Huffman, a pastor of the Red Star Baptist Church in Cape Girardeau on the banks of the Mississippi, Missouri. The sheriff asked the pastor to hold a service for the victims of a plane crash that had allegedly happened on the same day near the city. Huffman agreed and arrived on the crash site, and the place was full of police officers, FBI agents, firefighters, military men, doctors, and there were debris of some kind of aircraft. First of all, Huffman was surprised to see the wreckage of the plane because it was totally different from the usual airplane. He knew it from his experience of traveling in both military and passenger planes. Huffman had never seen anything like it. The object was metallic and shaped like a giant saucer. There were no seams or joints visible on it. Huffman tried looking inside the destroyed object through the huge hole that was on the outer surface of the object, and he saw there a small metal chair, some instruments, and consoles with dials, and also many other things that he had never seen before, which it would be very difficult for him to describe. At some point, Huffman saw strange inscriptions that resembled Egyptian hieroglyphs. Huffman went to the 3 dead bodies lying on the ground near the object to give them last rites. And when he saw the bodies closely, he was shocked because they were dead aliens the size of a small child. He guessed that those aliens had probably been the pilots of the crashed object. He noticed that the 2 of the bodies were lying next to each other, but the third one was at some distance. He thought that the third one had not died in the crash immediately and had managed to go away some steps further from the spacecraft. I guess this is what the adult size were of the people there And this must be a representation of how big the aliens were. According to the pastor, the creatures had tiny mouths with indistinguishable noses and no ears at all. They were wearing tight suits that looked like chewed aluminum foil. When Huffman finished his prayers, several military men approached him and told him to keep his mouth shut about that incident. Therefore, for all these years, he had not told anyone about it, but he shared everything with his wife and sons. In 1984, Mrs. Huffman was dying of cancer, told her granddaughter, Charlotte Mann, about everything. And she also said that her husband somehow managed to secretly take a photo of one of the dead aliens from an unknown man. According to Mann, at some point, she had also seen the photo, but does not know why one day it just disappeared. She contacted ufologist Leonard Stringfield, who wrote about the incident in one of his books. When Stringfield heard this story, he began to dig for other possible witnesses who may have still been alive, and he found the sheriff of Cape Girardeau, that served at the time of the incident, and he confessed to him that everything Huffman's family said was true. He also managed to track down the alleged photograph which Mann revealed. Ufologist Ryan Wood and Stan Friedman also investigated the case. So a lot of people dug into this, and there's some truth to it. There's also a video, and I will tell you what, I will put a link into the chat if anybody wants to check out the video in depth. They can certainly do that, but that is some really bizarre stuff. I hadn't heard about the Missouri crash that I remember, but again, I have a lot of learning to do with the UFO stuff. And quite honestly, it's kind of the same thing as all this other stuff, all the cryptid stuff. It's how many of these things are there? How many alien races could be visiting us regularly? How many could be just maybe coming once in a while? I don't know. It's very, very weird. That's the weird part about all this stuff is we just don't know. There's so much we don't know, but I'll tell you that the amount of sightings of craft is definitely on the increase. More and more people are seeing more and more things in the sky. Now, lately, I've been seeing a lot of these images online. Look, people are excited about these images of these lines of lights in the night sky. And I did a little bit of digging into that because I'm trying to understand where are people seeing this. Now, it looks like, from what I can find, that might be Elon Musk's the project to launch all the satellites into the low Earth orbit in order to get free internet out there. And so that might account for some of the weirdness that people are seeing. And I think it makes sense because apparently there's tons of those things they're launching up there and releasing. So it makes sense that could be a good portion of some of these weirdness lights. But with more and more things being disclosed, and with the upcoming disclosure that's supposed to be coming from to Congress from the intelligence community in the U.S., it'll be interesting what is released, if anything is released. And I'm cautiously optimistic about all that because, I'm hopeful that some kind of files will be released, or possibly some footage or more video, much like the Tic Tac videos that were, detailing the sightings by the crews from the Nimitz and such in 2014. But at the same time, I'm also not getting my hopes too high because I really believe that they can just stifle it all in just a heartbeat by saying just the simple words, national security. We can't tell because it would threaten national security. So there is that. But maybe we'll get more information about that stuff, but time will tell. Now, I think that the more people that are looking out there, that are looking skyward in the night sky and seeing some of these weird anomalous things that are floating around out there. And I really think that, anybody can see this stuff way up there. It seems like there's more of it, and it's hard to know what's ours and what's not. But I think as our technology improves, as more of these things are being launched into space and into orbit and such, it's going to be harder and harder to tell what should be there and what shouldn't. But, when you see, these anomalous, like the pyramids that were just confirmed by the government to be valid and real. And there was a couple of videos, and I think it was either on Secure Team or on Third Phase of the Moon, that had these really strange videos that were taken around Washington and the Pentagon area of these huge pyramid shapes. And I don't know if those are the ones that the government is saying, yeah, that's probably real, or if there's video that the government has of these weird pyramid things. But if you get a chance, I would check it out. If you're interested in more of this UFO anomaly stuff, check out Secure Team, check out Third Phase of the Moon. I know a lot of people kind of like to bash those sites. Well, at least Third Phase of the Moon, I think there's several that seem to bash that. But I've looked at it, and as far as I can tell, they seem interesting. And I don't know that I think it's Blake Cousins and Brent Cousins or whatever, the two brothers or relatives of some kind that are behind Third Phase of the Moon. I don't know that they've ever been like caught hoaxing anything. So it seems to me that they may very well be finding and putting up video of these incredible videos that are being apparently submitted to them, and they're doing some background checks on them, and they're researching them to some degree as well before they do. So it's not like they're just blindly putting it out there and saying, here, what do you think? So there's lots of information out there. But again, anytime you see videos online, as we've said many times on the show, regard them with a grain of salt. Probably not real, but maybe they are. Maybe, just maybe, is all I'm going to say. But let's see. I got to find something more to read, because that last one was a lot quicker than I meant it to be. I thought it was going to be a little bit longer, so I'm going to pull up something else to read if I can. Let's see what I can find in a short hurry here. That was no more things that I wanted to cover. That's Bigfooty stuff. There. Let's look at this. This is that site that we've talked about a few times on the show. And this is liminal.earth. And it's essentially a map. Let me refresh it, because I haven't refreshed it for a while, just in case there's new things. But it's a map of the Earth. And essentially it's a reporting site for all different kinds of phenomena. And if you look down here, you see the key to all the different things. But let's see what we find for alien stuff. Classic UFO, close encounters, sightings. Okay. So it's a green flying saucer. All right, then we go to the map and press Control and use the scroll wheel. And let's zoom in on there and look at the greens that are popping up all over the place. That's pretty intense. I don't know what kind of timetable this is for these reports, but it definitely shows a lot of things going on. Let's look at Kansas. Let's check out Kansas. All right, this is from Kansas. Blue Springs UFOs. When was the date? I don't know. Let's see. August 15th, 2015. And this report is, I just gotten home from a soccer game at around 6:30 to 7 p.m. It was still very bright out since it was summer, but the sun was on the setting side. So I told my mom I was going to stay out for a minute to look at the sky. She went inside and only a couple minutes later, I noticed what looked like a star that I was facing west, and right after I looked at it, it started to move across the sky, north. As it was moving, another star came into view from behind me, heading west. The two UFOs were adjacent to each other, as they got nearer, I thought they were going to hit each other, but instead slowed, maneuvered around the other, and went opposite ways. That's kind of interesting. Now, even once in a while, when the weather's warm, I go out and look at the night sky, because with the night vision binoculars and stuff, because I want to just try to catch more anomalies. I think that's incredibly interesting, and I've seen many weird things. I got many videos of very faint things that seem to be way high up in the atmosphere, but they do weird things. They like change direction, and they seem to have patterns. And the reason I've never tried to share those is they're so faint. it would be really hard to, it would take a lot of post-production work for me to go in and circle, here it is, and then watch this and such. But there seems to be a lot of things up in the atmosphere that are just shooting back and forth. And it's almost like, sometimes they just go like clockwork. Like one will go by. And it seems to have it almost has like a satellite kind of speed to it as it's going by. But the ones that I've seen tend to go from south to north in this area. And I don't know why. I mean, it's anybody's guess. But one will go by, and then it'll be a little bit of a pause. And then another one will go by. And that's seeming to follow very close to that same trajectory. So I find that incredibly interesting. That's the first one. Let's go to find another one. See, I wish this thing didn't reset every time. That's kind of a pain in the tail. Let's see where we can go next. Let's go to Colorado and see what's going on there. This one's a little bit bigger, but let's let this load up. All right. While camping in the San Luis Valley near San Acacio, Colorado, on a friend's private land this summer, I had a strange experience. The event took place on September 7th while myself and two friends were camping, and it was around 15 minutes before 7 p.m., and there was still plenty of sunlight remaining. One friend was sleeping in the tent as he was recovering from a long night at work in the night before, and his brother and I were attempting to get a fire started, but we were having a little trouble because there were very strong winds, and suddenly I heard a very rhythmic drumming sound coming from the opposite side of the hill we were camping on. The area is extremely isolated with no homes, so for as far as the eye can see. Okay. The only way I can accurately describe the sound is a steady drumming that reminded me of the Native American drums that I've heard during ritual ceremonies at festivals. The sound was a single drum, though. It went on for about 10 minutes, which both myself and my friend hearing it. We were mystified. It was so strange that I was questioning as to whether or not I was really hearing it. And I believe the sound was confirmed to me after about 5 minutes as coyotes began to howl in the same direction as the drumming was coming from. I wanted so badly to walk the 1,500 feet or so uphill, climb to the top and see if anything was on the other side. The only thing that stopped my curious walk to that hill was the sheer amount of extremely thick, quilled cactus needles, which had been piercing the soles of my shoes throughout the day between myself and that hill. After around 12 or so minutes of hearing the drumming sound, I was staring in the direction the sound was coming from, and in the sky I saw something I can't explain. It was what appeared to be a hovering sphere roughly 3 times larger than any star I've ever seen. It was in the distance, but not extremely far away, and I saw the sphere in the southern sky. Sorry, my eyes it's all dark blue in this small font. And it was extremely illuminated. It never moved or twinkled. It just hovered at about 45 to 55 degrees above the horizon. I yelled out for my friend to look, and he saw it as well. We watched it together for just over a minute, and suddenly I yelled out that I was going to take a video with my phone, and as I said that, he looked away to grab a set of binoculars that I brought on the trip, and as I opened the camera app on my phone, I put the phone up to the sky to locate the light in the viewfinder, and it was gone. I pulled the phone down to look into the sky, and sure enough, it was nowhere to be seen. I asked my friend if he was able to get a look at it through the binoculars, and he said once he looked away to get the binoculars and pulled them up to his eyes, he was not able to locate the object. It was gone. The drumming continued for another 5 minutes or so and then just disappeared as well. That's weird. I wonder what the drumming has to do with the UFO. Are they doing something? Now, the weird thing is this is actually, the area I live in is kind of a hot spot for this. In fact, we should see if there are any reports in this area on this site. This site is newer as far as I can tell, so I don't know if there's many going on here, but let's look. Nope, nothing here yet. So there is one over in Kalispell. Where are we at for time now? Okay, we'll do one more and then we'll check out the trail cam terrors. This one is in Kalispell, Montana. All right. It says this was once the location of one of the last drive-in theaters, now a Murdoch's, but my sighting took place during the time of the outdoor movies. I was in high school and was with family and a best friend when the screen was blacked out between showings. My friend and I gazed at the stars listening above us in the heavens. While admiring the beauty, we noticed two moving lights high in our atmosphere. I was obviously a satellite. It was obviously a satellite, as it never altered its course or speed. As we watched the moving objects, they were in line, but the following light was gaining on the first. So as it approached the first light, it turned 90 degrees and shot out of sight in a split second. The remaining light kept creeping across the sky as if nothing had happened. Yeah, it can't have been a satellite. They generally don't change direction and speed out of sight in a second. So that sounds absolutely unique, but very cool. Very cool. All right, folks. So these have been some UFO encounters on tonight's show. But as I promised, we still have the trail cam terrors. Ooh. All right, folks, this is the Trail Cam Terrors. This is a segment of the show where we kind of feature camera captures of what might be paranormal activity of some kind. Generally, we've been doing the trail cams, but we've featured a few CCTV cameras that have captured some strangeness too. But tonight's image, I think, is pretty profound. It's kind of one of those things that there's not any real information on it that I was able to find, at least not on the site that I found it. And I don't know much more about it than it was apparently in the United States. And it's a capture that happened here in some unnamed wilderness in North America. So let's look at tonight's image and you guys tell me what you think. But could it be a Bigfoot? Well, there it is, folks. And as you can see, this is a part of an eye, some kind of head area, it looks like. Almost gives the illusion of an ear over here, but I don't know. Along with what appears to be a hairy shoulder area. So is this perhaps one of the Bigfoot, perhaps a smaller one? You can see it's captured on, let's see, this was what, June 25th, 2016. So it's altogether, it's not extraordinarily old. We've had a lot of them from the 2010 era, but this is 2016. So could this be a Bigfoot? It says camera 5, which I find interesting. Now I wonder how many they have out there and who captured this. I don't know. I'm sure there's a backstory on this, and I apologize that I didn't find one for it. But the site that I had it on just kind of showed a bunch of various images that were captured without much of a dialogue. So I don't know. It is interesting. It's an interesting eye as well. It looks like a big eye. Like this is a big eye for the size of the face. It does seem to have that kind of primate edging to it where it's bearded and hooded with hair, but then it kind of hits this area of demarcation. And, we can only assume, is this skin or is this other people that have witnessed Bigfoot up close and personal have said that it's actually like really fine hair that's on these areas. It's not just skin, but other people have reported skin, so it's hard to say. And is this the shoulder and back? Now, it does kind of line up in several ways to what we would expect of a Bigfoot, in that generally they have a forward positioned head on the shoulders, not much neck. Most people say that, it's that hulking shoulders with the neck set right on them without any discernible neck. And that does seem consistent with what we're seeing here. This looks like it might be the back, and this would be the trailing edge of the shoulder and arm. This would be the front edge or the beard or whatever. And then it does trail off into hair on the back. So it's pretty interesting as far as images go. It's real clean. It kind of, it kind of feels like it might be legit. And I hate to say that because it's anybody's guess, and it certainly could very well be a hoax, but the size of that eye just seems so large. It's like an anime size eye. And I'm talking about Japanese animation, if any of you are familiar with that. But the eyes seems way big for this face frame. And so that would correlate to what people have reported about Bigfoot. It does seem to have a heavy brow. It does seem to look odd. Like this doesn't really look like a human kind of eye, but maybe it is. And the really low set brow, not any real discernible eyebrow. So it's very curious. I can't say for sure, but I'm saying to me, it really seems pretty compelling. I don't know what you guys think. I guess I'm moving my mouse around like you can see that, but you really can't. But I'm talking around the eye, how it's so much lighter colored, and then it hits that darker, what looks like a thick bearded furry patch or hairy patch, and so the dark hair on the head, and then the lighter shoulder and arm area behind it, and then to the right of that kind of slopes off into shadow, but looks like it might be the sloping back. I don't know. It's very interesting. I don't really know. It says you can see the ear too. Yeah, I thought so too, Android. It's really this lighter part right to the right of the eye after it turns dark and then gets light again for a couple of stripes. That does kind of look like what you would expect an ear to look like. And most people say that their ears are very tight to their head. They have them, but they don't really stand out like, they don't sit off of their head. They're very streamlined. Might be a young one, Rachel gets it right, says. That's more curious than the older ones who avoid cams like the plague. I agree completely, and I think that's a good point. Bigfoot was curious about that trail cam. Yep, you're right, Ethan. It seems like it might be. I think it's very good, and I don't know a lot more about it. It's very, very interesting. What did anybody else say? Am I missing any? It blends in with the hair. It really does. So I think it's a compelling possibility. I'll try to do more research on this and see if we can find out any more information. Or if any of you know any sites that have gone over this, let me know. I think it's really possibly a pretty powerful picture, but you hate to put your stamp of approval on anything when it comes to the internet. So I'm a little shy to say, yes, I think it's real, but I got to say that there's many parts about this that I find incredibly interesting and plausible. So I guess it gets down to, do you believe they're out there or not? And if you believe they're out there, is it plausible that one might look at it and go, what the hell's that? Especially a young one. If they are as intelligent, as curious as we believe they are, then, a young one looking at a trail cam makes perfect sense. So you be the judge. Have you seen Dean Harris's new FLIR footage? Yes, I have. It's very, very good. I love that footage, and I think it's really incredible. Really a great capture. Along with the video, if you go on to Australian Yowie Researcher, their YouTube page, they've done a breakdown of it as well, and revisited the site to go over what was captured, and it's really well done. So check it out. It does look real. Yeah, I agree. Asset. Very cool. Asset Ramses. That's cool. Nice to meet you. That's a new name to me as well. I think I might have seen you before, but in any case, I don't think I've said hello before. So welcome to the show. And as always, I hope any of you that are new here are willing to get subscribed and continue to follow us. We love to grow. It's our dream. So anyway, I think that's going to wrap up the show for tonight, folks. I'm going to take a couple days here and try to get more of my feet under me and continue to move forward. And we will be back on Wednesday night, as usual, for the 2-hour show. Don and I will be here. Oh, wow. I will check out Dean Harrison. Thanks, Maggie. Yeah, definitely check out Australia Yowie Research. They've got a lot of great material, and they've got a lot of great field videos, too. They really do get out there and are working the ground, working the territory for sure. And so anyway, that's all I got. I love you all. Be good, be kind, be nice. Take care of each other. help each other out. Oh, wait, let me do this first. This has been, this has been the Trail Cam Terrors. Oh, where's my yell? There we go. All right, folks. Now we're done. All these formalities. I forget my own formalities, but at any rate, thank you all for joining me. I hope you have a wonderful Monday and Tuesday. I hope your days are amazing, and you'll join us again on Wednesday, right here, 7 p.m. Pacific Standard Time on YouTube. And Don and I will do our best to keep you entertained for 2 full hours. So I hope you'll join us then. But anyway, I love y'all. Be good. Be kind. Be nice. Help each other out. Be good to each other. Try to find the magic in every day, and remember to laugh as much as you can. Good night, everybody, and have a wonderful dreams. Oops. I hit the wrong button. All right.
Mm-hmm.